on this Thursday night.
I think I have a right to know about the product in my body.
After our stories on the devastating consequences of some medical implants, Ottawa promises action. Help may be on the way, but when?
After a brutal week in Canada's auto sector and oil industry, At Issue is here to talk about what governments should be doing.
It's like a dream, you know. I'm going to cherish it for my life.
And get set for a hockey story like you have never seen before. India's national women's team with an assist from Hayley Wickenheiser. This is The National.
It involved months of talks, it sparked simmering tensions, and along the way came some unprecedented tariffs. But despite all of that, NAFTA negotiations turned into a USMCA deal. And tomorrow it will be signed by the leaders whose teams hammered it out, including, of course, the Prime Minister. Katie Simpson is traveling with Justin Trudeau in Buenos Aires and has the details.
Talk about down to the wire. With just about 12 hours notice, Canada finally confirmed that, yes, it will take part in tomorrow's USMCA signing ceremony. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto, and U.S. President Donald Trump will all be there together to sign the pact. That is incredibly surprising, considering senior Canadian officials had said publicly they would not have Trudeau standing and celebrating next to Trump as long as U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs remain in place. And we have confirmed that, yes, steel and aluminum tariffs are not going anywhere, at least not for now. The reason this was so last minute is that there were several issues within the new trade pact that had not been finalized. Sources have told CBC News a big concern for the U.S. was more transparency in how Canada's dairy sector operated. The U.S. also had problems with LGBT protections within the trade deal, and the Canadians wanted the language to be crystal clear that its auto sector would be protected if Donald Trump decides to put tariffs on the auto sector one day. One source I've spoken with tonight says that these issues have been resolved. It's likely as well Trudeau is going to face criticism back at home when he does return to Ottawa for signing without getting those tariffs lifted. But it looks like the government sees there is greater benefit in making sure it gets continued access to its most important trading partner. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Buenos Aires.
Katie, we'll have more from a big day, as it turns out, in Argentina tomorrow night on the program. Of course, tonight's news comes after a week that has been filled with big economic news in this country. And the At Issue panel is here to talk about GM, the oil sector, and what governments should do when companies take a hike. Andrew, Chantal, Jason Markusoff join me a little bit later on the program.
Okay, let's go now to an issue we've been on all week. The heartbreaking stories of Canadians whose lives have been cut short or changed forever because their medical implants didn't work the way they were supposed to. And tonight, our joint investigation with Radio Canada and the Toronto Star seems to have spurred change. Here's Vic Adopia with what the federal government is promising and what it means.
Good morning.
Noni Weidman's workday goes beyond feeding the pigs and tending to her animals. For the past 6 years, she's been doggedly pursuing Health Canada to find out about the pelvic mesh that was breaking apart inside her, demanding to see the clinical evidence that it's safe. But she's not allowed to see that data.
I think I have a right to know about the product in my body.
Being kept in the dark, a recurring complaint from patients we met. We also revealed how devices are licensed by Health Canada with limited evidence of their safety.
This was the standard.
And the flaws within the system when patients, even doctors, discover problems with devices. Today, the health minister responded with a statement. I'm deeply concerned by recent reports of serious issues Canadians have been facing with implanted medical devices. She also vowed to take action by working to improve the amount and quality of evidence used to approve higher-risk devices. She also said she'd work to improve the reporting of device problems by manufacturers, health professionals, and patients, and she promised more transparency by sharing all that information with the public.
I'm extremely strongly in favor
favor of full transparency.
This cardiologist welcomes the government's moves. More medical devices on the market mean the potential for more failures, however infrequent. With so many health jurisdictions recording this information, somebody like Health Canada needs to coordinate.
We have a problem in Canada, which is data tends to be siloed within the walls of the institution where the data is created. And we are absolutely committed, but we need partnerships to help us break down these silos so we can combine all the data that is most useful for patients.
When devices such as pelvic mesh and artificial heart valves and hips fail, this Toronto pathologist tries to determine why. He says he's encouraged by Health Canada's vow to improve the collection of data about problem devices, but he says it must be shared quickly and widely to make a difference.
And monitor it in real time. This way you collect the data, and this way you also do surveillance. You can stop the device before too many patients are hurt.
Okay, I want to talk about the federal government's response here, Vic, because Vic, the goal seems clear, the details just less so. So what are you going to be watching for tomorrow?
Well, I've spoken to actually a few health professionals just for their thoughts too, because I mean, I think overall there's sort of a quest for more transparency, and sharing of device information really is the key. And they want to see details from the government about its plans to monitor patients once devices are put in them, because as we've shown in our stories, that it's really life experience is the only real evidence about how durable and safe these devices are.
And so, I mean, the idea of a device registry, where's that going?
Well, I mean, that's complicated. I mean, there are various politicians, doctors, and groups have long been calling for a patient device registry, and that's where a patient registers their device and contact info, and that patient's experience with that device is shared with other doctors and hospitals. But to set up something like that that works in real time is complicated, because patients' information, according to one of the physicians I spoke to, can't be shared across provincial boundaries, and there have been long-standing concerns about privacy too. And it'll take a lot of political will to make something like that happen.
Okay, Vic Adopia, lots more to come tomorrow. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Now, as our reporting on medical devices has rolled out, more people from across Canada have been sharing their stories with us. So if you've had an experience that you think we should know about, let us know. Best way to reach us, by email at medicaldevices@cbc.ca. And if you want to look up specific information that's relevant to you, CBC News has created a database with information directly from Health Canada. You can check it out online at cbcnews.ca/medicaldevices.
To another CBC News investigation now. Every day, hundreds of float planes take off from and land on waters across this country. In fact, Canada is the home to the most seaplanes in the world, and the busiest ports are on the BC coast. Vancouver alone sees more than 400,000 passengers on about 36,000 flights each year. But there have been accidents, and the Transportation Safety Board has long called on the government to create stricter safety rules. Now the head of the TSB is speaking out, and so are some survivors of a crash that killed their loved ones. Our Erin Rankin is breaking this story for us tonight.
Never forget those loved ones ever. You never will, right?
Many of the seats at the annual gathering of Saturna crash survivors sit empty, as if occupied by ghosts.
If we had had pop-out windows, I really believe that the majority of people on that plane would be here alive today. Yeah, our table would be full.
Exactly 9 years ago, a Beaver float plane stalled and crashed shortly after takeoff from Saturna Island in BC's Gulf Islands. All 8 on board survived impact, but the plane started to sink. 6 passengers couldn't escape and drowned, including a mother and her 6-month-old daughter.
You're just stuck in a tin can that, you're trapped.
Only Barbara Glenn and pilot Francois Saint-Pierre survived because doors beside them cracked open, other doors jammed.
Maybe we could have done this, maybe we could have done that. But at some point, those people are gone.
After investigating the Saturna tragedy, the Transportation Safety Board made 2 key safety recommendations: that float plane operators install rapid emergency exits, such as pop-out windows, and that passengers be required to wear personal flotation devices, or PFDs, during flights. 9 years on, the industry regulator, Transport Canada, still hasn't brought in those changes.
It's time to get on with it.
Now, the chair of the Transportation Safety Board is calling for action because people keep drowning. In 2011, a young boy in a Quebec floatplane crash. In 2012, 2 men after a Northern Ontario accident. This summer, 5 people died in 2 crashes in BC and the Northwest Territories.
We're seeing some of the same types of issues recurring over and over again, and that's why we feel it's so important to take action quickly.
CBC News has learned the delay has been due at least in part to pushback from the floatplane industry. Documents obtained under Access to Information show in 2011, an industry stakeholder group urged Transport Canada to reject rapid emergency exits, citing prohibitive cost. The regulator backed off. In 2016, the industry complained about the cost of mandatory PFDs. Transport Canada said PFDs could be required anyway. Now the Transport Minister says new safety regulations are coming.
I would say to you that that's going to be soon, a matter of months.
Some floatplane operators have installed pop-out windows voluntarily and say they don't want to be seen as resisting safety improvements.
We just want to make sure that when the regulations come out there, they work for us, that we're not going to have to pass too many costs down to a customer.
For the Saturna survivors, change should have come years ago. Patrick Morrissey wasn't on the plane, but it was his wife and infant daughter who died.
I used to be angry. I used to be frustrated. Now I'm just sad because how many more have to die?
Eric Rankin, CBC News, Surrey, BC.
Now to another story we've been following on a subject that resonates across this country. This week, former NHLer Daniel Carcillo revealed that when he played junior in the early 2000s, he suffered continual abuse at the hands of teammates. It was an account echoed by others, young players pursuing their dreams while living a nightmare of violence and degradation. Now, it's something even current NHL players say might be in the past, but needs to be in the open right now.
Probably not as bad when I was playing. Does it surprise me? In all honesty, not really.
I think it got really cracked down on when I started coming into junior, so I didn't get any of that kind of stuff, thank God.
It's definitely an important conversation to have. I think it's good that it is coming out now.
And now that it is out in the open, the OHL, the league in charge of the team Carcillo and others were on when the alleged abuses happened, it's coming forward. Just hours ago, in response to the media attention, the OHL announced it has reached out to its teams to provide a refresher on its hazing policies. Joanna Remiliotis has more.
The acknowledgement and the apology came quickly. David Branch admits the Ontario Hockey League failed to protect its players.
Totally repulsive, the stories. So much disappointment. We had failed Dan and the other players involved, in my view, and it's shocking. You know, I don't know how else to put it.
One of my teammates being taped to a table, ass up, naked, being whipped with his own belt.
The revelations unraveled this week when former NHLer Dan Carcillo disclosed the abuse he experienced and witnessed as a teenager while playing with the Sarnia Sting.
We had to endure that abuse, that daily abuse, and it was something that I thought was normal, that everybody else was going through.
Carcillo says he hit a breaking point after an initiation called the Sweatbox. He and several other rookies were stuffed naked into a bus bathroom. He complained to managers. Branch says he did go to Sarnia to investigate and was told nothing serious had happened.
We didn't know. If we had, we would have acted. And we hopefully are in a better place today because of the programs that we put in place to support the players.
Is said to have charged off the bench during practice yesterday.
Branch says the league cracked down on hazing when it did learn about it. The trigger was an incident in 2005 that made headlines involving the Windsor Spitfires. The coaches were suspended. The team fined thousands of dollars. But Carcillo says a toxic hockey culture kept the lid on other incidents. And in the last week, his former rookie teammates have come forward, including Ryan Muntz and Charles Amodio. All say the head coach at the time, Jeff Perry, was well aware of the abuse.
But does that suggest to you that the people who were there, the coaches, didn't think this was serious enough to report?
If it occurred, and I have no reason to doubt the young men, where there was a real breakdown maybe as the players didn't know who to really trust and turn to. There was certainly some people not expressing themselves and providing proper leadership.
And what's your message to them?
Come forward.
Is that message directed to Jeff Perry?
He's the head coach at that time, yes.
And what would you want to hear from him?
I'd let him to decide. I don't want to tell him what he should be saying. He should know what to say.
Perry didn't respond to our questions, but Carcillo told us Perry called him this evening to offer an apology. Carcillo says he's not sure he can accept it. Joanna Brumeliotis, CBC News, Toronto.
Let's bring you back to Ontario now, where a police officer is in hospital tonight, and the circumstances are very unusual. He's alleged to have been shot by a fellow officer, reportedly multiple times. Now, this was the scene earlier today after the injured officer was taken to a nearby hospital. Renee Filipponi is following this story for us. And Renee, I understand there's a lot we don't know, but what can you tell us?
Well, Andrew, the Special Investigation Unit is now on the scene, and we know that around noon there was some sort of altercation between the two men before the shooting, but no sense of what it was about. Now, it happened in the small town of Pelham, Ontario. That's just across the lake from Toronto. Now, both officers involved are members of the Niagara Regional Police, and they were there investigating an impaired driving crash from earlier this month. Now, police say they are looking into the relationship between the two men, but they would not elaborate any further.
So the SIU has to conduct a full and thorough investigation. At the end of the investigation, the SIU director will determine if there are reasonable grounds to lay charges or not. But a full investigation has to be completed before that can happen.
Now, the 52-year-old Niagara Regional officer who was shot was taken to a nearby hospital and was then airlifted to a trauma center in Hamilton, where he's now listed as stable. And local media are reporting that officer, Andrew, had a history of being disciplined by his department. Now, at this point, no arrests have been made.
All right, we'll keep watching for developments. Thanks, Renee.
You're welcome.
Now let's take a look at some of the other developing stories we're keeping an eye on tonight on The National, starting with a dollar value just released today on the amount spent on so-called irregular immigration. That's the term for asylum seekers entering the country illegally outside official border points. A parliamentary budget report says Canada spends about $14,000 per applicant. That's for the RCMP, military, border control, immigration and refugee processing services, plus interim healthcare costs. Stats Canada says more than 2,000 hate crimes were investigated by police last year. That's a 47% jump from 2016. Most were property crimes like graffiti and vandalism, but the horrific Quebec City mosque shooting was also included. 6 Muslim men were killed that January and several others seriously hurt.
It has been nearly 2 months since the vile, premeditated murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, and the explanations offered to date by Saudi Arabia lack both consistency and credibility.
Well, just ahead of the G20 summit, Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland announced today Canada's first measures in protest over the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Sanctions are being imposed against 17 Saudi nationals linked to the killing. So any Canadian assets they have will be frozen. They're also barred from entering this country. Worth noting, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is not on the list.
Still ahead on The National, meet the players of the Indian national women's hockey team. Erin Collins takes us on their long journey to Canadian ice.
Plus, reggae music has been deemed a global cultural treasure. What it means for Toronto's reggae community in our moment.
But next, Donald Trump's former lawyer Michael Cohen pleaded guilty again. No surprise, the U.S. president had a thing or two to say about that.
So very simply, Michael Cohen is lying, and he's trying to get a reduced sentence for things that have nothing to do with me.
Donald Trump's former lawyer made a surprise appearance in a U.S. courtroom today, where he made an even more surprising statement. Michael Cohen pleaded guilty today to lying to lawmakers on Capitol Hill, not about his financial crimes or hush money payments that he made while working for Trump, but about his boss's business dealings with Russia during the presidential election. Paul Hunter has more on the revelations and their timing.
Mr. Cohen, Mr. Cohen, Mr. Cohen.
Surrounded as he stepped out of the courthouse in New York today, Michael Cohen's admission had been straightforward. He lied to the U.S. Congress. Cohen, once Donald Trump's personal lawyer and confidant, had just made a stunner of a plea deal, pleading guilty to false and misleading statements last year about Trump's involvement in a giant real estate project in Moscow, something Cohen now says continued well into Trump's 2016 campaign for the White House. The lie, says court documents agreed to by Cohen, was to minimize links between the Moscow project and individual one, aka Trump, in hopes of limiting the ongoing Russia investigations. Critically, the deal, struck with special counsel Robert Mueller, comes just days after Trump gave written answers to Mueller on a series of questions on possible links between Russia and the 2016 Trump campaign. Trump's answers came before he'd have known how closely Cohen is cooperating with Mueller.
He's a weak person and not a very smart person.
On Cohen's plea deal today, Trump was blunt.
Very simply, Michael Cohen is lying.
That said, Trump then unexpectedly canceled a planned meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin set for this weekend's G20 in Argentina, citing Russian aggression in Ukraine 4 days ago. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, Democrats had their own bottom line on Cohen's plea.
It means that when the president was representing during the campaign that he had no business interests in Russia, that wasn't true.
Michael Cohen's now also said to have spent some 70 hours meeting with special counsel investigators, which raises a couple more key questions. What else does Bob Mueller now know? And when will he act on it? Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
And for a little more insight on all of this, I'm joined by the CBC's Keith Bogue. What is the big picture here with this story, Keith?
Well, Rosie, one theory of what's happening that got a lot of traction today is that Robert Mueller is actually delivering his report through these indictments. That means Mueller is effectively doing an end run around the acting attorney general, who was appointed by Trump to oversee the investigation a few weeks ago, after Trump fired Attorney General Jeff Sessions. It might be Mueller's way of making sure the story comes out whether the acting attorney general likes it or not. Now, the evidence for this theory is in the amount of detail Mueller reveals in his documents. It's way more than he's legally required to. It's what's sometimes called a speaking indictment because it tells a story. And that's what we saw today. Michael Cohen's crime, lying to Congress, wasn't a particularly big deal, probably won't even affect his sentencing. But the story the indictment told about Trump, about how he continued to try to develop a business relationship with the Kremlin while he was running for president, that was a big deal.
Okay, so given that and given what Mueller seems to be doing here, what might we see next?
Well, we might get a lot more of the story as early as tomorrow. Remember, this week Mueller backed out of a cooperation agreement he had with Paul Manafort, Trump's former campaign manager. Mueller said Manafort had been lying to him and that he'd give a detailed account of those lies in his sentencing report, and that sounds like another speaking document might be on its way.
Okay, so more to come. Thanks for that, Keith. The CBC's Keith Bogue in Washington tonight. Next on The National, from GM to the oil sector, there is job and economic uncertainty across the country. So the At Issue Gang is here to answer the question, what should governments do or not when work dries up?
Our focus is on the families right now, making sure that we are supporting the folks who are facing difficult times.
We can't allow Canada's #1 export industry to go without a fight.
I'm suggesting that carbon tax is making Canada a less attractive place to do business and to produce things.
Alberta is facing an economic emergency requiring immediate action to save jobs.
We are essentially giving our oil away for free. Fiscal and economic insanity, my friends, insanity.
The calls to action got a little louder this week between Alberta's oil sector and Ontario's auto industry. It's hard to ignore the economic and job uncertainty there. So how should governments respond and at what political price? The At Issue Gang is here to unpack that and whatever else I come up with. Chantal Hébert is in Montreal. Andrew Cohen is in Toronto, and joining us this week is Jason Markusoff from Maclean's, and he is in Calgary. Good to see you. Okay, so let me start with sort of the broader question, and you can go to the specific industries if you want, but what could or should governments be doing in these kinds of situations? Chantal.
Certainly looking for ways, if there are any, to soften the blows. In the case of GM, I don't think governments can buy their way out of what is happening to this restructuring of a company, a private company. But certainly it is a major hit, and I think it's the business of government to ensure that this is a one-off and not the beginning of a trend in the auto industry.
Right.
So that's that. In the case of Alberta, of course, the federal role is a bit more complicated and complex because it involves pipelines. And at this juncture, the sense you get from the federal government, at least so far, is that they bought a pipeline. They are trying to find a way out of the quandary on Trans Mountain, but there is also a sense that they've expended a lot of political capital on this issue, and that there isn't very much more that they can see that they can do in the immediate.
So the issue, or the ask, I guess, that the Premier of Alberta, Rachel Notley, had for them to invest in trains seems to be going nowhere. And today she said, well, I'm going to at least go ahead with part of that on my own today. So, Andrew, is there a role for government in supporting industries like this when they are in crisis or collapsing, or however you want to frame it?
There's a role for government in supporting workers, less so in supporting industries. So Chantal's absolutely right. When people are caught in this type of situation through no fault of their own, it's government's role to help them make the transition to some other employment. And I'm not trying to minimize how difficult that will be for a lot of these people. But those people are there in large part because of previous supports to that industry. That they were told that if the jobs will remain in Oshawa because governments had previously propped up and bailed out and subsidized the car companies and the car industry. And if there's anything that this should teach us, it's when you try and buy jobs, the jobs just remain as long as the subsidies do. And they don't last after that. And what happens is the car companies just keep coming back for more and more and more and try playing them off against each other. It's a losing game. The only way you're ever going to get jobs to stay in a place is because it makes sense to the company and the industry to be there. That's the only guarantee you have. Right. So I don't know how much, I mean, everybody's trying to capitalize on this for political gain, right and left. And so I don't know, I don't think the carbon tax had anything to do with this. I think when you see that they closed 4 plants in the States as well, going forward, absolutely, you want to do everything you can as an economy in Ontario to make yourself an attractive place for car companies and everybody else to invest, but not in ways that involve buying jobs, but simply in creating the kind of environment where companies will want to invest there because it makes sense to do so in rational economic terms.
Right. So, Jason, I mean, to both of our friends' point there, it is true that the oil industry is a little bit different. First of all, the scale of the layoffs, how much bigger it is as a source of GDP in this country. But is there something for government to be doing here? I'm not sure it's what Rachel Notley is suggesting, but what kind of response would make sense, if any?
Well, I mean, we're in this remarkable phase where the leader of the opposition, one of the most conservative members of Stephen Harper's cabinet, is advocating a command and control, heavy-handed economic move of ordering all industry in the oil sector to move in lockstep to dial back its production to help lower this or ease this oil discount, and if by Jason Kenney doing this, coming from the right to do this, this gives Notley some remarkable room to do this herself and to toggle the levers. You could imagine the backlash if an NDP premier on her own was suddenly mandating what the oil companies can and can't do. There's this, the whole idea that people have these, the old right-wing rhetoric, we're going to run government like a business. Well, that works up until the moment where the chips are down and only government can come and step in. Because people expect the government to come in when the shareholders make a decision that this isn't economical and when whole industries are at stake. This is why the bailout in 2008 worked when it was a momentary crisis situation because of the credit facility issue. And in this case, this is a very temporary, momentary problem for the oil patch because of the because of the lack of pipelines. A lot of people here see this as the government failed on pipelines. The government is the only one that can fix this.
But if that were true, I mean, you could say to that, but we bought you a pipeline. I mean, that could be the government's response.
Well,
That's
right. The pipeline is going to help a lot with the price differential when it's open. The pipeline's going to open at best maybe 20. If and when that's 2022, 2023. Even even Rachel Notley becoming a railway baron, as my colleague Paul Wells said the other day, is only going to help once those trains come online in December 2019. You're hearing a remarkable number of very conservative, very pro-free market politicians and business leaders in Calgary saying that, yes, this is the point at which we actually need the government to step in and toggle the levers of production for the whole province. It's a very unusual situation, but this is being seen widely as the only thing that can really erase this major risk in the short term.
So while the situations are different, I mean, they are similar in that there are problems and larger, broader economic questions at issue as well. But Chantal, what are the politics involved here? If the federal government is willing to buy a pipeline because it's, they say, in the national interest, why aren't they willing to do X, Y, and Z to help other industries?
But I think it's a completely different proposition. What is happening in Oshawa is what happened here in Quebec when GM closed its last plant in the province. But it does not, so far, involve the entire auto industry. It's a business decision that GM is taking. It is reallocating resources to a different model for what it thinks are the times that are coming. What is happening in Alberta is in no small part related to the fact that the province lacks the capacity to get all of the oil that it produces to Tidewater, and so is losing out on this, and in a way that affects just about the entire industry in the province, not just one section of it. So I think that's completely different. That being said, I am not discounting the fact that Alberta is on the verge of a provincial election, and that plays in the rhetoric on both sides. Both the NDP and the Conservatives in that province.
Another way, Rosie, of describing the difference between the two situations is the problem in Ontario that they're facing right now is the legacy of past actions by government in areas that they shouldn't have gotten into. That is to say, of subsidizing the auto industry to stay larger than it really should have been by market forces alone. The problem in Alberta is the failure of governments to act in areas where they should have acted, i.e. in getting approvals for pipelines. And having dropped the ball on that, it does open the way for people to make arguments, whether they stand up or not. The government, having created this problem, has an obligation to help people tide over until they can fix the particular problem the government made.
That's a good way of explaining it. Jason, let me end with you, though. If it doesn't seem like what the federal government has done so far is satisfactory to people in Alberta, particularly people working in the oil industry, I'm not saying that it should be, but what is the political cost to the federal government of not going any further?
Oh, we talk about the oil price differential out here a lot. I think there's also in Alberta a Trudeau differential. Everything that he does will have a large degree less of credibility than it would if anybody not named Trudeau would do it. Trudeau came out here last week, and I think he was sort of gobsmacked in a way that people don't give him more credit for buying a pipeline, which is ultimately, once it's built, if it's built, a $12 billion proposition.
And so does that make sense to you, Chantal? Because it seems in the things that Jason's been writing, some other people have been writing, that there is this sort of central Canada versus Western Canada feeling out there, and that disconnect,
But I do think he's right about the Trudeau thing, not the central Canada thing so much. If Stephen Harper were Prime Minister, I'm willing to bet good money that he would have been reversed in courts on his pipeline projects in the same way as Trudeau was. I'm assuming he would have bought a pipeline, but I'm not sure. But if he had, he would probably have been treated more like a hero than the way that Justin Trudeau was treated.
So, Andrew, this will really be the last word. What, if anything, is there for Trudeau to gain from doing that kind of thing? I mean, it almost shows you that trying to help an industry, it may not always have a political payoff.
Oftentimes, you just store up trouble for yourself. There's no doubt. In this case, you know, I think it's a sort of the inverse of when Harper mishandled the environmental file and made it seem as if he was the enemy in this. Having said at one point that he's going to phase out the oil industry, even if that was also Harper's position in the long term, it's very hard for you to get a hearing, even if you're trying to help the oil industry. It's stamped on people's minds that Trudeau basically doesn't want the energy industry to exist, and whatever he does from this point, it's not going to buy him a lot of credit.
Okay. Good talk, everybody. Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to At Issue, the podcast, for extra content. This week, we're going to talk more about the fallout from Ontario's cuts to Francophone services, including within Doug Ford's own caucus. Look for it on iTunes, any major podcast app, our website, cbcnews.ca/The National.
Well, next on The National, Hayley Wickenheiser, Wayne Gretzky, the Stanley Cup, and the national women's hockey team of India. Our next story has them all.
Coming from a community like we do come from, and where women are not given the priority, we are told that you're supposed to get married, you're supposed to start a family, playing for the nation. Like it's a big deal.
It's the story of a long road to the bright lights of a Canadian arena. Stay with us. Hockey season is well underway in this country. That means players are hitting the ice, cramming in extra practice time, dragging their gear to tournaments, and dreaming of championship glory. But tonight, Aaron Collins brings us the story of one team that had to travel a little farther than most to meet their competition.
This is the final leg in an epic hockey road trip.
Hi, how are you? Good morning.
A 12,000-kilometer journey that brought India's national women's hockey team to Canada. India's best women here in Calgary to play teenagers, players in their 20s, doctors and PhD students off the ice, but serious underdogs on it.
Are you nervous?
Excited.
Excited? Yeah? Have you ever been in a dressing room like this before?
Never. It's like a dream, I'm going to cherish it for all my life.
Like any team on the road, India will lean heavily on their goalie.
Most important position in the game, right? The goalie.
Exactly. We always call, in our team, we always say this, that goalie is the backbone of the team, and this is what I feel. I really feel that way.
A lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure.
Final prep done, it's time to hit the ice. But the story of how this team got here starts much earlier. This is Ladakh, a remote region in northern India high up in the Himalayan mountains, an area as crazy about hockey as Canada. A YouTube video about women struggling to find gear and ice time in Ladakh caught the eye of Hayley Wickenheiser. So Wickenheiser went to Ladakh, handing out 73 bags of gear, running practices, and trying to figure out how to get Team India to Canada. Well, it took less than a year to make that happen, and as Team India takes the ice in Calgary, their biggest fan is in the stands watching.
I think these girls have had to fight for everything, and their families too. It's not traditional for a woman to want to play hockey like it wasn't when I started, right? So imagine what it's like being in the Indian Himalayas.
But on this day, the biggest obstacle Team India faces is on the ice, down 5-0 early.
I know you could help.
Yeah, I might have to put the skates on tonight. Maybe they'd let me play, like the sixth player.
Just maybe a shift?
Just a shift.
India's first game, a loss, but for these players, just being here is a win.
Everyone here is proud of what you're doing. You're actually making it a lot easier for girls in your part of the world to do anything.
Inspiring a nation of young women, no easy task. Luckily, Team India has some inspiration of their own. A front row seat to watch some of the biggest stars in the game prep for the Battle of Alberta on a Saturday night. A great day with perhaps the greatest surprise still to come.
This is Wayne Gretzky.
Oh my God!
Wayne Gretzky, these are the girls. This is Team India.
But this trip, this team is about much more than hockey.
Coming from a community like we do come from, and where women are not given the priority, we are told that you're supposed to get married, you're supposed to start a family, at a very early age. I think now seeing us going outside, playing for the nation, it's a big deal.
They may be a big deal, but back in their dressing room, Team India has more pressing concerns. They've yet to score. Game 2 starts better for India. Both teams trade chances. Then early in the first, they score, and the celebration is on. Team India would score twice more in a loss. They wouldn't score again in the tournament, finishing last. But they did win over fans everywhere they went, including landing a shopping spree at a local hockey store. For once, spoiled for choice instead of simply making do. A chance to score some much-needed new gear for themselves and others.
I saw you on the phone. Are you getting something for someone back home?
Yeah, my brother. Back in home, it's morning, so maybe they're not picking up.
Yeah.
He wants some blades, yeah. So they are sleeping right now, so it's probably hard to get them.
He's gonna regret missing that call.
Ah, Lord. He's gonna kill me.
But this team isn't here to shop. They're here to skate, stick handle, and shoot. Even with the tournament behind them, they're back on the ice, running full practices, honing skills and techniques they'll take home to India.
You must have some plans for when you go home to share
Yeah,
what
of course.
you've learned.
Yeah, whatever we are learning here, we are going back to the hotel, and then we're noting down everything, whatever we are learning, and definitely we're going to use it back home. And we also we coach the younger kids, especially the girls. We do our own coaching camps.
As Team India's time in Canada winds down, they receive one last gift from the hockey gods. A chance to hoist the sport's holy grail. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
Boy, there's a treat, huh? A reminder to check out our daily newsletter, which dives deeper into the stories that top our newscast, and it's also the home for reporters reflecting on the stories they cover. In today's issue, Aaron Collins writes more about the Indian women's hockey team and what it was like to cover their journey. You can check it out and subscribe at cbcnews.ca/The National.
Love those girls and totally jealous about the Wayne Gretzky thing. Next on The National, the moment when UNESCO added reggae music to its global cultural heritage list.
Hear the children crying. One love. Hear the children crying. One heart.
Why this moment is worth so much more than bragging rights for reggae musicians. Next. But first, a familiar face comes back to your screen tomorrow night. Peter Mansbridge hosts a documentary called In Search of a Perfect World. It's nearly 70 years now since the UN adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. With some of those rights now being questioned, Peter looks at who is defending them.
We have a deeply built-in moral preference for us, not them, for our citizens, not for strangers. And the whole function of human rights, I think, is to cut against that. You know, I trust people who look and sound like me more than I trust people who look different from me. I can't help it. That's the way I'm done, the way most people are done. And human rights says, wait a minute, okay, that's fine, but don't push that so far that you end up creating a brutal world that will be unsafe for you and your children.
You can watch In Search of a Perfect World tomorrow at 9 p.m. on CBC TV, the CBC streaming app if you have that, and cbc.ca/watch. Or you can watch the repeat on CBC News Network Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, and Thursday, December 6th at 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific. You won't want to miss him. That is, of course, the immortal Bob Marley. His music heard by millions for decades and loved as well. But today, it found its way into an unusual place, which brings us to tonight's moment.
Hear the children crying. One love. Hear the children crying. One heart.
This is not normal for the UN, a bunch of stuffy officials moving to the sound of One Love. But today, reggae was added to the UN's list of cultural heritage to be promoted and protected. For the Jamaican delegation, cause for a little celebration. There's little doubt reggae rose fast from its roots in Jamaica in the late 60s, and within years, it was a worldwide phenomenon.
And reggae music is synonymous with an escape into fantasy. It's music politically important from the Caribbean.
Canada has long had a thriving scene.
Stroll through Kensington Market any Saturday morning, and you're bound to hear the blaring coming from these speakers. It's reggae music.
But talk to members of that scene today, and they say reggae needs protection and promotion more than you might think.
Well, I hope that it opened doors for reggae music, because years ago you used to have a lot of venues that you could play. Now you don't have that no more.
The biggest fort of reggae music right now is in Europe and Japan.
In Jamaica now, they only listen to hip hop and dancehall. And if you tell them anything about the foundation, they brush you off like, who cares about that? That was then.
So while reggae's message of love and unity is alive and well at the UN, the hope is it doesn't get lost where the music was born. So this website is where you can go and look up these proposals that more than 40 countries sent in things that needed to be protected. It's actually really odd and fascinating. For instance, one of them was bobbin lace making in Slovenia.
What's bobbin lace making?
Well, you have to go look. You'll have to go and read it now. I can't explain it all now. Avalanche risk management in Switzerland. There's really strange and unusual things per country.
Right, and so, funny thing about that list, as you said, tons of different entries. I don't think Canada is actually anywhere on that list, and you'd think, I don't know, like maple syrup, something would be
That doesn't
on the
need
list.
protecting. That abounds. It has to be something that needs protecting.
Well, okay,
I don't
fine.
know. We'll come up with an entry next year.
That's the national for this Thursday, November 29th. Good night.
Night.